And we are the Coalition, loud and proud, outrage-porn-free, civilly disobedient media, broadcasting live on the Worldwide Coalition Radio Network, here at the Coalition Radio Network headquarters, in the bunker, in a building high above the hills of La Prave, the naked city, the city of 300,000 stories. We're going to try to tell a few tonight. It's been a busy night earlier on this evening from 6:30. We had Paul Roselli, environmentalist. At the 8 o'clock hour, we had something called LPTV. It's a show we do every week with Libertarian Party candidates from across the nation. Folks who are running everything, well, in the 2 weeks that we've done it, we've had city council candidates tonight. We had gubernatorial candidates and insurance commissioner candidates last week. It's all about the down ballot, baby. Facebook.com/The Coalition Radio, on the Mighty Mighty Twitter at Coalition_radio. And the mothership at coalitionradio.us, where links can be found to our YouTube page, a Twitter page, and of course our civil liberties page, where you'll find all sorts of releases and information and white papers from folks like the American Civil Liberties Union, FIRE, AIER. It's all about your rights here. There is more than the Second Amendment. By the way, an amendment we hold near and dear. The right to bear arms, the right to engage in self-defense using firearms, shall not be abridged, whether it be in defense against an individual or a tyrannical government. But here we honor the First and particularly the Fourth Amendment on a daily basis here. So, if you were listening, it was an open mic session now that we're going into, 401-205-3738. We're trying an experiment here at the station. In addition to programming, interviews from thought leaders, cultural figures. We're also trying to do a little bit of a real talk radio format. So the subject for tonight, Gina Raimondo, her latest announcement. By the way, are you falling for the push-up thing yet? Or the T-shirt? It's all a little much. A little smarmy. Yeah, that too. I don't want a governor who's trying to engage in catchphrases. I'm interested in results where government matters. Like, for example, why is the government all about being involved in the distribution channel for the variety of products that are critical to either testing, analysis, or at some point, ultimately, a cure, a vaccine for COVID? Why? We have an astonishing supply chain in this country. Why won't they simply ease up on the regulations normally that they've eased up for in terms of this crisis? Those are the kind of issues we want to talk about relative to COVID. Life also moves on. There is a presidential election. Bernie Sanders dropped out of the race. Given his precarious situation, i.e. delegates, that wasn't a surprise. What was a surprise and a shock to many was he did it so early, although I'm told he's held on to his delegates, was the notion that he was going to support Joe Biden. This is an individual who he has weighed heavily against. I simply don't understand what the rush is to support the corporate candidate. I hold Joe Biden in nothing but contempt. He is the architect of so many things wrong with America, so many things that he's done that have exacerbated racial tensions, involved us in wars abroad, engaged in all sorts of cronyism, set his sons up to be the beneficiaries, if you will, of indirect government largesse at a rate that is incomprehensible to many people. Not a good person. Despite the crazy Uncle Joe act, just not a good person. And clearly, he is saddled with issues, none of which I'll make light of. Things like senility, Alzheimer's, terrible, terrible diseases. I've seen it in my family firsthand. I wish that upon no one. But at this point in time, should he be a candidate for the president of the United States? Joel, should Joe Biden be a candidate for the presidency of these United States?
Joe Biden should go home and go to bed.
And have a nice hot toddy and a warm cup of milk? You think someone should read to him?
They should read him the Constitution.
So, by the way, Joel's signing off for the night, but Joel, could you give us the range of sound effects that we have now available to us at the Coalition in our ever heightening attempts to be like a real radio station? By the way, which is essentially Pinocchio, right?
Right.
I could be a real boy too.
It's so we'll start with magic. We got crickets that sound not very much like crickets. What's going on in Rhode Island? That's what I hear. Gina Raimondo is Debbie Downer.
That's when Gina Raimondo announced she's resigning to run for the vice presidency of these United States.
No, that's what her husband plays for her when she walks off of off a conference.
And that's the laugh. We play laugh tracks here because we think we're funny.
And then just our intro.
We're working hard on the Charlie Brown?
We are. We'll have those.
Okay.
Have a good night.
You too, buddy. Wonderful job tonight. You know, he is the, if you will, the electronic duct tape that has somehow pulled this all together. It's funny to kid about, but it's serious stuff. We even in our few short weeks of existence, we have brought in multiple people from around the globe in a variety of operating environments. And it's interesting to me because I'm not a sound guy, obviously. But when I look at this stuff, I see buttons. And if you push the same buttons in the same order every time, it should all work, right? No, you would be wrong. Every time we interface with somebody else, hold on, folks. We're in for a bumpy ride. But he stoically manages to do it. As I'm in the fetal position under the table, he just sits there and pronounces the radio equivalent of, is it safe? Is it safe? Tell me the movie and there's a prize. Is it safe? So, again, one of the purposes here is to actually start a talk radio station. There has got to be an interest in late night talk radio. You know, we've had a couple of episodes of the Coalition After Dark. Folks who are involved in adult entertainment. Folks who are involved in a variety of political causes. We'll do later at night. But sometimes we think it would be just fun to solicit opinions from people. So if you've got something you'd like to get off your chest, if you want to vent, scream, yell, if you need therapy, well, hell, give us a try. 401-205-3738. How'd you like to start something like this from scratch? We've had people call in. A couple nights has been pretty quiet. People kind of stumble on us. If you've got a question that you'd like to talk to me, folks, about the stimulus. Folks are starting to get their stimulus checks right now. Have you gotten one? Do you think it's appropriate that the government take other people's money and just redistribute it in order to keep, or at least a perception that the economy is growing? Have you gotten your $600 yet if you find yourself unemployed? Talk to me about it. How has your experience been with your state unemployment system? Massachusetts, where I work, it's like butter. Just works. Rhode Island, I'm not sure if this was real or just imagined, but my understanding there was a clarion call sent out for COBOL programmers to deal with Rhode Island system. So have you had trouble getting your unemployment? How do you feel about the imposition of civil liberties? Do you think people should be able to go for a walk in the park? As long as they're maintaining this quote-unquote social distancing. Talk to me. 401-205-3738. Here's my thoughts on the stimulus program. The upside and the other side of a free marketplace is the fact that failures will occur. There are businesses that were simply not meant to be. That's extremely painful for the people who own them. Even more so for folks who might feel helpless because they work at some of these companies and they see what's happening. They know how the story is going to end. If, in fact, though, we continue to use and redistribute other people's money to support failing businesses, what have we really accomplished? Have we delayed the inevitable? What are we accomplishing? Many have said General Motors should have been able to fail years ago. I would agree. Because at this point, there is no moral hazard for asking for money. What does moral hazard mean? Well, the airlines, after a couple of rabbit weeks, are crying for billions after having made enormous amounts of money. Now, it's none of my business that they made enormous amounts of money. God bless them. But it's also none of my business that they're losing money. Folks refuse to accept a simple economic fact. If not enough people are spending money on a business and that business fails and they go away, the fact is that the money that was formerly spent on that business will be spent elsewhere. The market will respond with other ideas, other businesses. And by interfering with that, you're reducing the efficiency of the marketplace. And what I mean by that is folks are paying for goods, paying for services, paying for things they don't need, don't want. And they're doing it by an indirect form of taxation with all these subsidies. That should be ending. There's no upside to that. So how do you feel about these multi-billion-dollar incentives? Just hand it out. What are some of the other issues on the table? The XFL announced its demise today. We had a couple of guests earlier today. Paul Roselli was talking about the need for government regulations. Now, he and I have been having this running dialogue now for a couple of years. I don't believe in a lot of these regulations because all they simply do is redirect the bad behavior elsewhere. I call it whack-a-mole. Before you introduce even more regulations and make it harder for innovation and entrepreneur to be successful, I believe that if folks have a belief about a product or a behavior, in this case pollution, then they should be engaging in a lot of conversation, a lot of actual data. They've got to convince the consumer that it's in their best interest to buy a product that is sourced if you will, from an environment that's not harmful to the ecology, to our environment. It's up to them to convince people of their behavior, because ultimately, as I stare at all the computer equipment on this table, all of it, literally all of it, was made in manufacturing environments that are best could be described as hellish. All of it does not represent recycled material. All of it has based something in, plastics and metals. All of it involves the mining, if you will, of rare earth, which is a host of elements that are used in the production of electronic equipment. All of it. And a lot of it's actually used by people who claim to be in favor of the environment. I've always found great irony that Apple computers are the official choice of so many environmentalists. Now, we are all environmentalists. We all should be. We should all want to work towards a cleaner planet. We should all want to support the environment. It's just how we get there. If individuals continue to make choices in products that are harmful to the environment, well, what have we accomplished by just simply making them more expensive? I think we know that if products are made more expensive, people will still buy them. There's something called price elasticity, which is a feature of every freshman economics course in college. And roughly, and forgive if someone's got a better explanation, please call 401-205-3738. We always welcome economic interventions here. But, price elasticity tries to judge at what price can a product rise up to before demand begins to fall. How elastic is the price? Well, the problem here is that environmentally damaging manufacturing techniques, if I look at it in the strictest sense, drive the price of products down. Government, through its subsidies, makes some of the bad actors in the environmental, I should say, in energy production much more affordable, therefore much more popular. Ultimately, the real price of so many things in our life has gone down in real dollar terms over a generation or two. We can get astonishingly powerful televisions that are astonishingly big for astonishingly small amounts of money. What's that accomplished environmentally? So you have to change people's behavior. Economics is all about people's behavior. So feel free to give us a call, 401-205-3738. What are your concerns tonight on a Friday night in April? Good Friday if you follow the Christian tradition. Is it in fact a religious concern to you? We are now into Passover. Passover began Wednesday evening. Many families have generational Passover and Easter traditions. My extended family is going to have a Zoom Easter dinner. I think I'm supposed to be making the ham. Yikes. Gadzooks, as they say. I'm not an accomplished chef, despite appearances to the otherwise. So I'll beg and plead with my wife to help me out, or at least to tutor me. But my family is split up over multiple states, multiple zip codes. I've got a daughter who's living in the belly of the beast, Brooklyn. Given all the quarantining, given all the deadlines and the issues, if she came home, I'm not sure where we could put her. Depending on how you define quarantining, I mean, if she's in trouble, I'm driving down there to get her. Roadblocks, Humvees. I'll be driving my Stylin Ford Fusion Energy. Electric powered. So, I'm going down to get her. But that awkward moment when we get home when we realize here's a little child who was in Europe. So what are your plans for the holiday weekend? Lots of other developing news. With the baseball season being delayed, the question is, of course, what happens with your Pawtucket Red Sox, the Paw Sox? Anyone who ever listened to this show knows that years trying to work to prevent them from building a stadium at taxpayer expense. What is going to happen to the Paw Sox? Will the Paw Sox play another season? We're reaching out to folks in Worcester to get a handle on what exactly is happening with that construction. Rumors abound that they're behind schedule. We know they're way over budget. Imagine you're the city of Worcester and you're $33 million over budget on a stadium that you don't know when or if it's ever going to open. I'm assuming that baseball will come to Worcester at some point. I don't think this is what they had planned, though, in terms of how to get things off the ground. Just saying. So, what happens to the Paw Sox? If the stadium is not ready, do the Paw Sox negotiate another short-term lease with the city of Pawtucket, Rhode Island? Pawtucket, the bucket. And how does Mayor Don, how much does he ask for? As far as I'm concerned, he asked for the moon. To the moon, baby. Get as much money as he can out of them. To their credit, the Pawtucket Red Sox donated some money to the city of Worcester. So, I mean, my credit to them. Doing a little quick research here on the fly. The anticipated move of the Red Sox AAA affiliate from Pawtucket, Rhode Island to Worcester for the start of the 2021 season may be in jeopardy. The city of Worcester suspended construction on Polar Park. Construction of the ballpark, which is slated to open at the home of the Woo Sox for the start of the 21-20 season, was suspended on Wednesday with plans to secure the site on Thursday and Friday. Ruh-roh. That's a problem. Don Grebian responded in a text, understatement of the year. The Paw Sox have a contract to the end of this year. There are many factors that would need to be considered if they would need an extension, including their continued commitment as good community partners. Oh, yeah. Good stuff. Facebook.com/The Coalition Radio. You have a concern or an issue you want to talk about? Give us a call at 401-205-3738. Let us know what concerns you right now. Does the onset, if you will, of spring and summer sports, is that part of your annual tradition? That's something you look forward to every year. You know, a big part of winter is when the first truck leaves Boston with the Red Sox to head down south. That's a big deal. In only a way that things that weren't a big deal a long time ago suddenly were. Now it's one more thing for the news to cover. The news just used to make note of it anecdotally, and now it's become, well, center stage. So, minus those. What are you finding that's important? How will you replace that time? Will it be more time spent with your family? More time spent with another pursuit of yours? So what concerns you? The phone lines are quiet again tonight. If you are listening out there, what's a formula that would encourage you to call? Would you like to call after we've had a specific guest on? Flitting around on Facebook. What would drive you to call a talk radio station? Are you the type of individual that simply wants to listen to other people? Or is it an issue that makes you so mad right now, you're not quite sure to say? Are you still, now that a few weeks have gone by, this whole social distancing thing, are you still doing it? Have you or anybody in your circle of friends, family, acquaintances, coworkers, fellow softball players been afflicted with this COVID? is the fact that so few Rhode Islanders have had to face it in person. Just a tiny percentage of Rhode Islanders, when you look at the big picture, as terrible as it is, and the fact that it appears to have caused a number of deaths. I say appears because we're not quite sure what percent of the deaths being accorded to COVID actually were the result of it. There's a great deal of uncertainty about that now. Does all of that contribute to an environment with which you're not willing to take it as seriously as you did perhaps a few weeks ago? Every week for the last couple of weeks, that week coming up was going to be the apocalypse. Here's the point. I'd take it very, very seriously. Very seriously. But at the same time, I'm confused by the ever-fluctuating statistics, by, and I'll say it, the tendency of our governor to cry wolf. Is she crying wolf? Is it as severe? There's no question that in Rhode Island, that the people who get it suffer greatly. Is that number small because, if you will, of the social distancing? Is the argument to be made that it would have been much worse if, in fact, government hadn't jumped all ugly over it? Of course, there's a whole other school of thought that said government wasted months in preparedness for this. It needs to be chastised. There's a whole other, argument to be had. The government's failure to organize properly in the run-up to what is ostensibly going to be the week, this week. So many conflicting viewpoints. Which one do you think is real? Or at this point in time, like so many of us, you're so hopelessly confused, you're not sure if any of them are. If you're just joining us, you're listening to The Coalition at 401-205-3738. Working on a Sunday guest, Lynn LaCava Ulbricht, mom of Ross Ulbricht. She was with us last year. If you believe in redemption, you believe it's time for Ross Ulbricht to come home. If you are not familiar with the story, we're going to post an earlier interview with her, and when we announce it, it's compelling. Multiple lifetime sentences for effectively a civil act. Many people claim that he was railroaded. I agree with those people. A dual lifetime sentence when no one was harmed. Years of service already. Absolutely agree that he was railroaded. And that he needs to come home. Look at some of the people that have been. We had some idiot talk about that Joe Tiger, whatever it is, to the President of the United States in the depths of an analysis of an international plague, and some idiot, and I don't usually say that about the media, I don't play the media's games or the obsessions that some people have, but there's some idiot decided that was a great time to ask a question like that. Sorry, I don't see that as lightening the mood, I just see it as stupid. Let me ask you, if you had an opportunity at a press conference, you could sit in on a press conference, you could ask one question to the presidency of the President of the United States, particularly this one, who is controversial. Would that be your question? Would you ask him about the Tiger King or whatever the hell he is? Facebook.com/The Coalition Radio. So we can cover all sorts of subjects. Your feelings about baseball. Tom Brady was interviewed this week. He keeps getting interviewed, and not that many people seem to care. The only people who seem to care are the talk radio hosts, the football talk radio hosts. They're perfectly willing to obsess over every aspect of it, every angle. (401-205-3738). Feel free to give us a call. a day or so ago with regard to a Facebook post that Woonsocket City Councilor made. I invoked the words of the late, great Vincent A. Buddy Cianci, one of his classic quotes. Alex Kithis is someone who's been on the show routinely. Struck up a friendship with the young man. Great young man, very committed. So I always like to say we don't agree on everything. Some of the goals we have are the same. We just have vastly different ways to get there. But that's his philosophy. And he was elected by the city of Woonsocket to represent them. (401-205-3738). Give us a call. We'll be on through the top of the hour or so. If you're just stumbling across us, we've been on the air all of about a week and a half. A week and a half. So yes, we are interested in an open mic, all questions. You can join us, call in on open forum, as my friend Matt Allen likes to say it, from 3 to 4 o'clock. Sorry, from 2 to 3 o'clock on Fridays. Matt's always been very good to me. Allows me the time to develop a subject. But he holds an open forum. Now, they've been in business about 20 or 30 years, so they got a little bit more of a head start.
You just said, I think is critically important. Can you repeat what you just said, please?
Well, last Friday, I received a 7-page document that sort of told me that if I had an 86-year-old patient that had pneumonia but was never tested for COVID-19, but sometime after she came down with pneumonia, we learned that she'd been exposed to her son, who had no symptoms, but later on was identified with COVID-19, that it would be appropriate to diagnose on the death certificate COVID-19. Now, we've not done that. If someone has the pneumonia and it's in the middle of a flu epidemic, and I don't have a test on influenza, I don't diagnose influenza on the death certificate. I will say this elderly patient died of pneumonia.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but my heart is sinking right now as you're telling me this. You're a doctor. Why in the world would they be sending you out information to fill out death certificates whether the person's been diagnosed with COVID-19 or not, but then to say in the death certificate this person...
And that's one of the great questions. Is COVID-19 being overdiagnosed as a cause of death? One of the great unknowns. Does the mere presence of COVID-19 ensure the fact that that's going to be added to the statistics? So everything is subject to question now. There are no absolutes. Months into this, we still have no answers. Americans aren't used to that, by the way. Americans are used to getting questions answered. They're used to resolution. And they're certainly not used to a changing landscape, a changing answer every day. There certainly interested in finality. And they're certainly interested in success. Americans have almost been bred to believe that success is their birthright. That we simply innovate our way out of a problem. Someone always manages, despite all the odds, to get the truth serum at the end of the show. They just do, because we're Americans. That's just how it works. Now we're a few months into this. Other countries seem to be doing better than us at it. I don't know how you draw that type of conclusion, but that seems to be the media's claim at some point. And I don't know how we go back. Someone's conclusion is that, the curve is flattening. We'll have less next week. How do you know? And if we go back too early, all of a sudden we're going to come into contact with carriers again? Because we're all working in close proximity? That's a belief. $401-205-3738. That's the number. I'm interested if you're calling from a different part of the country. We have a connection to a lot of people in different parts of the country here in the show. Join our normal interview person. Is talk radio just not a thing where you are? It certainly is here. During the day, during more conventional time, the airwaves are filled. Sometimes you have to wait 20 or 30 minutes to get a call in between commercials and other long-winded people like me who call in with rambling, incoherent ideas that they think are pure genius, like me. What do you think? Give us a call. Tony Jones is online, the pompatus of love, as we call him. I'm going to ask him if he wants to call in. He's the guy who got me started in all this. He was originally the founder of the coalition. And it's done every conceivable form of talk radio. WPRO. The sheer volume of group calls or group messages that I've gotten since this started People clearly have a lot of time on their hands. What are some of the more obscure subjects you ever heard about or talked about on talk radio? I want to find, here's one for you, completely off the wall. I want to run into all the people who have performed on memes, been captured in a meme. And you see them all the time. Where are those people, and what do they think of the fact that they've been memorialized forever and ever on a meme? That young lady with the very short hair who's a progressive with her eyes bulging out, just enraged beyond all hope. Just the sheer virulence of her enragement is interesting to begin with. She's used all the time. All the time by conservatives and their memes. Here's a question for you. Does the city of Providence go bankrupt after this? Will the combined weight of their pension obligations, what I would imagine is a collapse of revenues in terms of property taxes, the inability of the city to bail them out, steep drops in the market, is that enough to finally push them over the edge? You tell me. I believe they should have gone bankrupt during the term of Angel Tavares. A lot of these issues could have been resolved by now, much more humanely. Now the city is up against, really truly up against it financially. In fact, let's make that the theme. What we're trying to do here is transition from an interview show to having a talk radio component. So one of the things they tell you in talk radio school, there was, in fact, going to do a little quick marketing here, a little experimentation. So do a little of that. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. A little bit of this and a little bit of that. Little marketing here. Oh, and we have a call.
Hi, Pat.
Hey, how are you? Now, who am I speaking with?
Well, you're speaking with Morgan Rigg from Indiana.
Hey, buddy, how you doing? Thanks for the mercy call. You know, we just started. We just started this a week and a half ago, and we've done an interview show for about 7 years now. And hopefully, Aaron's been on a few times, and I had a few people. And thank you for calling in for the first time. But the genius behind the mic, who is the provider here, decided why not try to do talk radio at nights, late at nights, where people can call in. And we opened our door. We opened our doors about a week before the apocalypse.
Well, my compliments on the timing.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, I can't.
Go ahead, buddy.
I'm afraid I can't give you more. Yeah, well, I'm afraid I can't give you more than a few minutes at the moment. My cell phone's running low on minutes, but I heard you mention a little bit about. I'm assuming government lockdowns regarding the coronavirus. Am I right?
Right, absolutely. I mean that's what's on everyone's mind. And if you're if you're a libertarian and a civil libertarian at that, you've got to be questioning it. Now, Indiana was one of the first states to kind of shut her down. What's the reality of what part of Indiana are you in?
I'm in the Northeast. For the most part, I haven't experienced any encounters with the cops. I've gone out a few times. My dad's gone out more often than I have, and he's 80 right now. So that's. But
God bless him.
But not. Well, yeah. Well, he goes out. That's what he likes to do. He likes to go out, and he's in good health. We both are actually. But the problem is, I mean, we haven't seen much of anything, but it's still there. I mean, every time you hear about the latest thing with our governor, Eric Holcomb, including recently regarding churches, I don't know. It just gets me more and more upset at this point. But
well, how would you handle the church situation? That's a tough one, because go ahead. If you're religious this weekend, if you're Jewish or you're practicing Christian tradition, excuse me, I've been talking for hours. This is really the heart and soul of your religion is celebrated this or contemplated or prayed over this weekend. What are you religious, and what are your plans for this weekend?
Well, I'm a Missouri Synod Lutheran myself, and right now the plan's probably going to be about the same as it's been for the last 3 Sundays, where you've got people who want to go. We'll head over to the church, to the parking lot, and we'll stay in our cars the whole time. But they'll have a service that we can actually listen to on the FM, and then at some point, we'll have elders coming over to the doors to hand communion. Mm-hmm. It's usually served to us on a paper plate. We take the plate in, we keep it in the car. We receive the blessings accordingly and such, and that's basically about it. I mean, in fact, we rarely even open the windows at all. I mean, we're to stay in the car. We listen to the service. It's an abbreviated service. There's no sermon, and then we just head home. That's basically it. Now, as far as like what the governor wants, I mean, that's we're pretty much doing what is being the guidelines, except I think for communion, because I'm not sure quite what exactly they as far as like the how the communion is supposed to be served. I mean, supposedly its directive includes like a prepackaged communion. I'm not quite sure how that works, but yeah, I mean, everything else we're pretty much doing. So, but the point is that he's still making it. He's still trying to dictate to us, which I don't like. So.
Has anyone in your and I hope and pray they haven't, but has anyone in your religious community fallen ill?
No, not in our church. No.
All right. So here's the dilemma. On one hand, government officials will claim that it was their, some would say abuse of power, others will say exercise of power that kept people safe, and there's the proof. That's all you needed. On the other hand, folks will say that they're entitled to make their own decision, and if they're observing quarantining and they wish to go to church, that should be their decision. Their faith is that important to them. Where do you fall into that category?
Well, for me, my faith is important. And, I mean, at this point, I mean, I have no problem saying that I would be willing to commit civil disobedience just to be able to practice my faith as I would, as is dictated by as is taught to me, really, by within the Lutheran faith. Mm-hmm. And so I don't. And so, I mean, if it came down to the point where I would be hit with a penalty, or I'd be hit with, even possibly being arrested, I mean, I would be willing to do that. It would scare the heck out of me, but I'd still be willing to do that because it does mean that much to me.
In the libertarian tradition, it's what folks, I think, and feel free to debate me on this. Let's go back and forth. And I know you only have a little time. and again, I appreciate you calling in, Morgan. The folks tend to think that as libertarians we support positions. I argue that we don't support individual positions. I support your right individually to choose your own position. And in this case, the primacy of your faith in your day-to-day life dictates to you that you behave accordingly, and you're willing to do that. And to me, that's a mark of personal strength and sincerity. The consequences be darned, if you will. And I wonder at what point in time, given the incredible failure of government, despite all sorts of resources, money, time, energies, barriers to entry to businesses spent, will they understand that we've grown cynical and tired of their intrusion, and we need to be left to make our own decisions? Do you think that happens after this, or do you just see more and more government as a result of this crisis? Oh, did we lose Morgan? Darn. Yeah, we lost him. Darn, if you get your power back in, Morgan, call back in. That was kind of the crux to, that was kind of the setup I was going with, but I'm grateful that you took the time to call in. Folks, if you're local to the Rhode Island market and you've listened to our show before, you'll know that we have a connection with the libertarian community nationally. But this isn't all libertarian radio. Oh, is that? Hey, this is the Coalition. Is this Morgan again?
Yeah, it's me again.
Oh, okay. So I don't know if you caught my last question, but I guess what I was saying was that our movement, our philosophy is such that we empower people to make their own decisions, with the caveat, we have something called the non-aggression principle, where we will not engage in behavior that causes harm to others. So I see that as a sign of great personal strength, that you're sincere in your beliefs on a couple of different levels, both with religion and your political philosophy, that you're willing to test this. I guess my question to you is, do you think the rest of the country is simply falling in line? Or do you think there's a breaking point where people will say, I've had enough, I'm going to behave responsibly, but at the same time, I'm going to be civilly disobedient? What direction is your sense in your particular neck of Indiana that people are leaning towards?
I'm not really sure myself. I mean, I think, judging by the number of people that I know have actually been coming to my church for Sunday morning services outside, it's still only just it's not a huge number. I don't know. I mean, I do know that with let me see. I would say most of us who have gone to church, most of us, we've been willing to go to follow the precautions, but following the precautions in the meantime. I honestly don't know if they would how many of them would actually acquiesce, and how many of them would still be willing to be civilly disobedient because of the fact that our faith matters more. I would like to think, because of my church in particular, and also because of it's the Missouri Synod of the Lutheran Church, that we would be more inclined to follow our faith rather than obey the law. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know about the rest of my area, rest of the people in my area. Unfortunately, at times I'm cynical enough to think that the majority of the people in this area might probably just simply obey the law. But I'm optimistic enough when it comes to at least those within my faith, and in particular within my church, that the majority of us would be willing to still meet outside, still be willing to try to still be trying to worship God, despite what the governor would want, despite what the authorities would want.
Mm-hmm.
So, and unfortunately, I can't really give you much more of an answer than that at this point.
No, it's an entirely fair one. I mean, just one last quick question, because I know you're limited to time and minutes and battery power and all that good stuff. Are you folks planning on some type of sunrise service tomorrow? A vehicular sunrise service, as it were?
At this point, so far as I know, it's going to be the same. The procedure is going to be the same as it's been for the previous Sundays. We'll meet up at about 10 o'clock in the morning in one of the parking lots. Again, we'll still be in our cars. We won't leave our cars at all. It's going to be an abbreviated service, which basically means in practice there won't be a sermon. I expect that we will be able to see the sermon because our pastor has been filming the service and has been uploading them onto the church's new account on YouTube. So we're able to watch that when we can. And the abbreviated service should probably not take more than about 30 to 40 minutes, then we'll just be heading back. So in a sense, it'll be just like any other service that we've been having outside. Mm-hmm. There might be some additional stuff that we might be doing because of the fact that it's Easter, but I would say generally speaking, no, it'll probably be it'll be about the same as it's been with the previous Sundays.
Okay. Well, again, congratulations for your. It's regular folks standing up for important issues in their life that ultimately, individually, may seem workaday, or it may not seem like that big of a deal, but in the aggregate, when enough people stand up for their beliefs and engage in peaceful civil disobedience, that's, in the words of the great Arlo Guthrie, we got a movement here, and enough people do that. Folks understand that you've drawn a line. You personally drawn a line, if I can make that judgment, and religion and your faith in God is a primary force in your life, and you refuse to have someone interfere with that, while at the same time behaving with responsibility. So, behaving responsibly. Congratulations on that, and I wish you nothing but the best, and just have a lovely Easter with your family. And if I could ask you one favor, we're trying to start something here where it's the notion of talk radio for the masses, where you can have a conversation like this without what we call outrage porn or drama or ad hominem attacks or screaming voices, where folks can finish their thoughts. Hopefully, I'm learning how to be a host. And, if you could spread the word that a couple nights a week, folks can actually dial in and, share their thoughts around the country. Because people may not be calling much, but there are people listening and watching. So, Morgan, thank you for taking time out of your night.
Well, thank you very much, and you have a great Easter yourself.
All right, buddy. I hope we get to meet soon. I think we were all supposed to, and let's hope that something works out on that end. Okay. Good thoughts.
Yeah, you bet.
All right, Morgan.
All right, thanks. You too.
Morgan calling from Indiana. Yes, we've got nationwide appeal now. We've had folks call in from literally all over the country, sporadically over the last week or so in our week of our operation. Baltimore, California, Tennessee, even a couple from Rhode Island. We are the Coalition, loud and proud, outrage porn free, civilly disobedient media, broadcasting live on the Worldwide Coalition Media Network, here at the Go Local Live Broadcast Center, deep in the heart of the city we love, Providence, Rhode Island, the naked city, the city of thousands and thousands of stories. One of the things we were talking about was, in fact, what would appear to be many, the imminent financial demise of the city of Providence, Rhode Island. Is this the time to take some sort of structured bankruptcy approach? Is this the time to literally reinvent how municipalities run. If we don't do it proactively, is it simply going to happen on its own? That's the question I've got. And that's not just a question just for Providence, Rhode Island, but it's a question for all cities across the nation. Cities everywhere are under significant financial stress. Significant financial stress. Pensions, something called OPED, which is related to healthcare costs. Wages. And now with the advent of COVID, collapsing sales and property tax structure, where the base literally isn't going to be able to pay, in many cases, its own bills. How do we do that? How do we make this mid-course adjustment? How do we change the entire direction of what I'll call loosely our municipal philosophy? How do we do that with so many lives dependent on municipal services, government salaries, transfer payments? How do we do that? I misspelled something on Facebook. Wow, that's embarrassing. But it's late and I've been up. If you had the opportunity to listen to a couple of our shows, what do you think of our programming? What can we do to change it, make it better, more important, more central to civic life here in the Rhode Island and the country at large? Are there stories that you want us to cover? Let us know at Coalition Radio. Or are you simply not the type? You can message us a question. Are you simply not the type to do talk radio? You'd prefer to listen. If you've got a small business and you like to talk about it on the air, there are shows we get thousands of listeners to. Come on the air and practice in a friendly environment talking about (401-205-3738). Here's an interesting story from the Boston Globe. Ed Markey falling short of signatures ahead of May deadline. The Boston Globe. If you're political, that's a very important issue. Ballot access is dictated by your ability to get people to sign on the vine. Interestingly enough, the senator from Massachusetts, Tom Markey, is still thousands of signatures short. He needs 10,000 certified signatures. What does that mean? Well, in reality, particularly in a hotly contested race, remember he is running against Joe Kennedy III, who, according to reporting, has got a higher number of signatures. Those signatures can be challenged. I've done petition signatures. It's tough business. You got to go door to door, stand in front of the Stop and Shop. You got to go everywhere and anywhere. And hope that people sign the same way they did in their petition. Hope that they actually are registered to vote. Hope that they actually live in the district. Hope all of that. Hope against hope against hope. Not a big fan of Tom Markey. So if he ends up not getting the rest necessary, here's the reason I say that. For let's just say a machine politician like Tom Markey to fall short of the very methods that he's using, the very methods that he's inflicted upon grassroots efforts, third parties, things like that. As the chairman of the Libertarian Party, the American Libertarian Party, said, Nick Sarwark once said something effective, "The taste of your tears is delicious to me." So there will be no tears shed for Tom Markey or any of the folks in the mainstream parties. Instant karma, baby, is going to get you. Instant karma is going to get you. By the way, that's a question being faced by all political parties across the country. Most states require some form of in-person If you're just joining us, we are the Coalition, loud and proud, outrage-born, free, civilly disobedient media broadcasting live on the Worldwide Coalition Radio Network here at the Go Local Live Broadcast Center. Oh, I keep saying that. That's where we used to be. At least on this late night practice, I do get a bit of alone time to make mistakes. People at Go Local were wonderful, by the way. But we are enjoying kind of our new life here. It is fun, even when you kind of screw it up a little bit. So, what would you like to talk about, Rhode Island? Was I nuts to try and do talk radio late at night? You got a confession. Feel free to call and confess. We can keep it anonymous here. It's just you and I. Some points of the night, it seems like it is just you and I. Let's see who's on the line now. Got a handful of new likes today, folks. Whoever you are out there, on a brand new show like this, there's going to be a fair amount of begging and pleading to get your word out, to reach some sort of critical mass. We do have, originally our focus in doing this was going to have in-studio performances, in-studio shows. Obviously, that's on hold a little bit. A handful of new likes today, folks. Obviously, that's on hold. So, yeah, in a real sense, our business plans have been changed, not as dramatically as some folks. There are people out there suffering. Generational businesses that all of a sudden are flailing about trying to find a way to keep the doors open, or at least be in a position to open the doors when circumstances allow. There's a real community spirit out there that stresses support of those businesses. And so, as a result, the entire fabric of our life here in Rhode Island can change. From the small fisherman to the small bait shop to the restaurant that was buying right off to the dock. That impacts the servers, the maitre d', the chefs, the line cooks. That trickles down then to folks in their community, the landlord of that person, for whom rent may have been a struggle in the first place. Now it's catastrophic. So, yeah, give us a call, 401-205-3738. Going on 11 o'clock. Probably be wrapping up in a few minutes. It is 11 o'clock, and we are the Coalition, loud and proud, outrage porn-free, civilly disobedient media broadcasting live on the worldwide Coalition Radio Network here at the coalitionradionetwork.com. Facebook.com/The Coalition Radio on the Mighty Mighty Twitter, at Coalition_radio. And, of course, the mothership at coalitionradio.us. If you happen to catch Paul Roselli tonight, give us a call. Tell me what you thought about his conversation. Again, checking the calls. So I run this this Chromebook here, which runs off the studio feed. Get a feel if anyone's calling, who's watching. The trouble with true television, when you're sitting up there on a stage, you can't cheat and look at a computer. When you do radio, you master the act of you master the art of cheating, which is basically looking at a laptop and you manage to learn. I'm not that good at it, as you can tell. I look down too much. If you look at the camera and you're doing this, and no one can see that you really don't know what you're doing. After a while, you run out of things to talk about. But actually, I don't. I could do this. I could do this all night. A friend of mine just messaged me. She's not ready to call in yet. Oh, come on. I'm easy. Facebook.com/The Coalition Radio, on the Mighty Mighty Twitter at Coalition_radio. And of course, coalitionradio.us, the mothership. Anyone see that movie? At the end, this is Lawrence, Kansas. Is there anybody out there? The day after 1983. Well, I think on that note, We're going to go quiet for a little while. If you'd like to reach out, please do. And I think we've got a caller coming in. We do. Hi there. Welcome to the Coalition Talk Radio in our kind of inaugural week. And your name?
Hey, Pat, it's Tom. How are you?
Good. Hey. I love it when buddies call in. God bless you. God bless you for the mercy call.
Oh, no. Yeah, you were right. I need to bed. This is just crazy. Did you see Dan's replies
Okay,
to that post?
Bring me up to date on everything, because what's happened here is, so as you know, for a number of years I've done something called the Coalition, which is an interview show once a week. Because of a move and some change in equipment and everything, we stopped doing it at Go Local. Great people. Joe, the producer, I miss working with already. We decided we decided to build our own studio, and so 2 weeks before the apocalypse, if you will, we expanded the business. So I'm like a lot of Rhode Islanders right now. Like, what was I thinking? So now, the problem with that is that I'm intensely involved with interviews with people. I try to catch up the next morning. So bring me up to speed from scratch. What's going on here?
Okay, so, I try and catch the governor's press conference every day. I listen in. They're just reading questions from reporters, no follow-up.
Right.
So, I go on the Twitterverse, and Ted Nisi's got a post from the, I'm just trying to reference it, so I have it in front of me, from apparently a follow-up call where she does another call with reporters to ask follow-up questions, because in the presser, I guess it's all showmanship. They have someone read the question, and they don't allow follow-up. But apparently there's another call going on after the presser where the reporters can ask follow-ups. So this tweet from Ted Nisi saying, on reporter call, she's getting questions about when normal weddings can happen.
Right.
It's all going to depend on the size. And the governor started to say 50 or 80 guests, but Dr. Scott says no way. So then the natural question is, will there be no school after that? And someone asked Ted in the follow-up. But there's no stories on this stuff. There's a whole nother presser going on after the public call, and it's not really with the transparency, where it's important information is being exchanged, and the public's kind of in the dark, right?
Absolutely. First of all, the notion that you would have some. First of all, the notion that this can't be done in person is utter balderdash. I went to a Board of Elections meeting a couple weeks ago in a really nice facility in Cranston where they just recently moved to. A modern facility, nothing sumptuous, nothing out of line, but a professional building environment. They built a conference room in there that's got seats for probably 80 or 100. And up in front, the Board of Elections Commission sits, they're mic'd, they're recorded. Again, it's very professional. The notion that you can't get into that room, just as one example, And Lord knows we've got a lot of building space in this town. The notion that you couldn't assemble a semi-permanent, or for the duration of the crisis, facility in the convention center, which is adequately spaced, with people who, by the way, when you work in the news, you're used to public speaking, you're used to enunciating, you're used to projecting. So the notion that they can't go up to or bring their own mic and be part of that and engage in a normal behavior, except just more spaced out, in a more spatial building, is utter crap.
The General Assembly refuses to meet, just have it in House chambers and space those orders out. They're not using it. There's like the space in there. Yeah.
Great point.
Or do a Skype meeting, right? Everyone does a Skype or a Zoom meeting now.
Yeah.
So they're having questions read, they're having a show answer for TV, and then after that TV moment, they have a real press conference with reporters, and we only get to hear what someone feels like dribbling out of it. It's kind of crazy.
Well, but it's the hallmark of this administration. It's all show. I mean, look at how many people. Listen, the state is sinking in right now financially. There would have been a time
right.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, buddy. So
no, but the reporters too. You think they would be taking everything down, and that this all should be news. Nothing's going to happen.
There's a control element.
Nothing's going to happen. Yep.
There's an absolute control element. Listen, they want to contain the news. They want to contain the public. They want to contain everything. They want to control everything. That's the reason why, you've got a half a dozen indie media outlets around the state who are starting to, you've got Steve Ahlquist, for example, who takes no nonsense from anyone. All right. You've got, Go Local. You've got Motif. You've got a variety of publications which are geared towards different issues, but are going to come home politically, because that's all that really matters right now. What matters right now is public safety and the public. And here's the biggest scam of all. Right now, she needs to understand you need buy-in from the public. We've heard too many conflicting results. None of adults. You're an adult. I've got to know you through activism, Tom, and so what you're looking for are answers so that you can behave responsibly. No one's looking to use this to panic people, to hype people up. Simply give us the facts so that we can, ironically, probably be better citizens in her eyes. But instead, we've got this incredible moving target every day. Every week is going to be the Holocaust, and I use that carefully, right? But it did 2 weeks ago.
No.
Go ahead, buddy. I'm sorry. I'm battling.
She's got this secret model. The secret model that she won't release, because I don't know why. Maybe if she releases it, it doesn't show as bad a situation as she's painting, or there's some reason she's not releasing it. Not the blabber she's saying about, it's not ready, or if it's not ready and it's not accurate, then why are you using it to predict anything? If she's basing decisions on it, we should be, the public paid for it. We should be made aware of it and what it's saying. And there'd be some buy-in maybe, or at least some examination of the methods and what the thinking is. And you could have some discourse on it, but they don't want that.
No, they don't. Because, and when they don't, the first suspicion, the first reality is, what are they hiding? Did they? And that's when people ideas start running rampant, and that's when rumors start to be projected, and that's when you've got nonsense, because we all go off in different directions. Someone who's a cynic like me, the first thing I'm going to assume is that, all right, given what's happening, is that they overprojected the impact of this. Now, you know what? If that happened. I get
Right.
this is, to use the other term that's being beaten to death, this is uncharted territory. So if you come to me honestly and say, all right, you know what, listen, we had to tweak this, we had to tweak that. This is new. We've got some real issues here in terms of how we collect data. All right. You know what an adult does? Yep. We go, oh, okay, I get that. I absolutely get that. But they're not.
Yeah, it's a work in progress.
They're not.
These models are all theoretical, and it's the first time they've got real data to try and validate them. And so far, they've not done that well predicting things. And just keep us in the loop on what you're doing to fix it, or even like Gina and her secret model. What are you using for guidance?
It's astonishing to me to watch. But then again, if you look back, look at some of the stuff that you and I worked together on. And if you're just joining us, you're listening to The Coalition, Facebook.com/The Coalition Radio on the Mighty Mighty Twitter, Coalition_radio. And of course, our main network place, if you will, CoalitionRadioNetwork.com. If you're just listening, Tom and I know each other. We're both veterans from the activist wars. And so go back to the stadium where I first met you, the stadium issue, and what was the hallmark there? Secret, not discuss the plans, not discuss the future, control, limited communication. Look how that worked out. I mean, it's just it's a pattern of failure. It's a pattern of a government that, quite frankly, can't level with its own citizens. And something needs to change. We need, this part.
Yeah, no, we need transparency. We need to be able to plan. If she really thinks we're going to be shut down for a year, then say it so we can plan accordingly. If she's waiting for a vaccine to come, like Dr. Scott seems to be, and what some of their timetables seem to reflect, then say it instead of just inching it along. If I don't know, if she's afraid to tell us what they're really thinking, it's just frustrating.
Listen, personally, I'm of the opinion that I don't know how we can go back to normal until we have, real-time testing for everyone, or a vaccine or a cure. I don't know how we do that.
We need antibody testing and to see who's already immune to it, see how many people have already encountered, and to be able to accurately predict who it can infect still. Like, I haven't seen that. We're just doing vaccine screenings. I think someone asked the other day, and it was just like a really brief, oh yeah, we might do that for nursing home residents and healthcare workers in the homes.
Right.
And not like expanded kind of sampling. There's no random sampling either to tell how widespread it is. It's all, if you're really, really sick, you might be able to go get a test at Twin River.
Well, and what's got to happen, because ultimately, if there are still pockets out there, and we bring back everybody, and they don't have the antibodies, and they don't have a vaccine, and they don't have a cure, then, lather, rinse, repeat. We're back exactly in the same spot. I can't see, practically speaking, if this is anywhere near the severity that they allude to, anywhere near, I don't see how we come back before the fall. I just don't.
No, not from what the other models were saying. And the other recommendations were they're all shelter in place, or if there's no vaccine, once you release, you get a peak as high as to do nothing, right?
Right.
So if that's their plan, just advises of it. Don't say, oh yeah, 5 more weeks. Oh yeah, 2 more weeks. Oh, this is the peak this week. Oh, this is going to be the tough week, and string us along.
Because what if you have a business? What if you have family? What if the what ifs are endless. The combinations are endless. Quite frankly, I was laid off from my primary employment about 3 weeks ago. I didn't see us coming back until the fall. I still don't. There's nothing, this lunacy coming out of D.C. because of the oncoming election that somehow we're going to start to reopen the company. And by the way, the conceit that reopen the economy, I should say, the conceit that we need government to reopen the economy as if there's some magic set of circumstances. You know what? The way the economy gets reopened is that you say, okay, folks, you don't have to shelter in place anymore. And by the way, you can open your businesses. And the next morning, those that can do, and those who have money start to go spend it.
Yeah, no, she's keeping closed who she wants to keep closed. She's letting certain places stay open. So she's going to choose that's a stimulus. You can't spend your money with a place if they're not allowed to be open. So there's money that's supposed to help all small businesses or, stimulate the economy. It's just going to stimulate who she picks and chooses by managing the economy like that.
I don't know. It's beyond troubling. By the way, as an aside, since this is the first time you and I have spoken in person, or kind of in person in a while, I know we've chatted back and forth. How about that How about that stadium in Worcester?
What are the overruns?
$33 million, and as of April 1st, not sure if you're aware of this. You're a guy who pays attention to everything, but you pay attention to a lot. They actually, the city of they stopped construction. So
really?
So it is not currently under construction right now, and the city had to come up with $33 million skulls. Anyone want to criticize us now? Holy cow! I mean, talk about a white elephant. And there's a real reason to suspect that minor league baseball may never come back after this.
Oh, yeah. No, they're talking about the majors, too. There's a lot of concern there.
Right. I mean, the majors, under one formula, one of the guys who does covers sports, explained to me that one of the formulas that Major League Baseball is looking at is expanding their rosters, playing games down in Arizona, where the weather's always good, in front of no one for a while, maybe eventually have crowds in. But by expanding the roster to 50 players, you don't need a AAA ball club. Oops.
Okay.
Ruh-roh.
Yep, there you go.
Wah, wah, wah.
The team save a ton of money, right?
Woohoo! I got to call the fellas. I got to know some of the fellas in the hallways of the State House, particularly the last go around. Me calling them welfare cheats probably didn't do much to endear me, but hey, I think it was I said to this one coat hanger type who worked for the POTax, I said, "How does it feel to live off the teat of government?" He actually, I think he really wanted to punch me, which was what I was. I mean, listen, you know me well enough. You understand what a responsible, mature leader I am. That's what I was kind of going for.
Yeah.
Oh man,
I gotta go. Very good talking to you.
Hey, buddy, listen. Do me a favor. One quick favor. If you could like our Facebook page and just let people know that there's a few nights a week now. There's going to be talk radio on late at night where you can have an extended conversation and you're not going to get muted by the host. And we talk about all and pretty much every night is open mic night where if you got an issue, you want to bitch, you want to vent, you can do it at coalitionradionetwork.com. All right, buddy?
Absolutely. Thank you much for the time.
Hey, Tom, it was awfully good to talk to you. And don't be a stranger, okay? Listen in.
Thanks.
All right, lad.
Will do. Thanks. Bye.
The gentleman who was just on the phone, Tom, was a real fighter in the wars against using your tax dollars to subsidize a baseball team owned by arguably one of the 10 wealthiest, according to Local Prov in their research, one of the 10 wealthiest sports ownership groups on the planet. Not in Rhode Island, not in the United States, on planet Earth. Yep. Yep, as my friend would say. Wow, Jeaner. There's always got to be some side action with our governor. That's just, and I thank Tom for bringing me up to date on that. I wasn't aware of that. Imagine a talk radio host admitting that he or she wasn't aware of something. That happens often, not. Yeah, that's just terrible. So what do we got? If you're listening, what have you got on your mind? You want to vent? You can call in and vent just like Tom did. It's all good. We can talk about baseball. We can talk about the plague. We can talk about anything. Let's do a little bit of time check right now. What do they call it? A station ID on the real stations. It's 11:32. $11:32 on the big dial. And I think on that note, we're going to sign off for the evening. Or maybe not. I love doing this. If you listen, I hope you can tell that I love doing this. The question is, and I'd love your opinion, how do we get an audience? How do we break in, make a little noise with the big boys? Folks constantly complain about the state of media. I personally find a lot of folks who work in the media to be delightful. I've gotten to know some of them personally. I'm blessed. People who we are polar opposites in terms of personality and politics, but are just serious players in the world. Serious players out there. When I say serious, not in the terms of notoriety or fame, but in terms of the professionalism with which they bring to their daily jobs. Absolutely dedicated to getting a story. Trouble is, we need more of that. Local media is going to take a beating now. They are not well positioned in terms of advertising. This was a difficult economy to make a living. When you just saw your advertiser base collapse. couple things before we sign off for the evening. If you're still listening or you hear this later on, if you're a content provider and you in the arts, let us know. We'd like to talk to you about an opportunity to share what you do with a wider audience. Our talk radio thing may be new, but we've been broadcasting guests for 6+ years now. If you, this is listener-supported media, like so much of media now, independent media. If you've heard a show on us and you think it's worthwhile, if you could join us on Patreon, or perhaps a small donation, we'd be grateful. You can find those links on the lower portion of the page at coalitionradionetwork.com. So with that in mind, I think we're going to bid farewell. So in closing tonight, we will be back on tomorrow night. We are the Coalition, loud and proud, outrage porn free, civilly disobedient media, broadcasting live on the Worldwide Coalition Media Network here at coalitionradionetwork.com. Facebook.com/The Coalition Radio, on the Mighty Twitter at Coalition_radio, and of course the mothership at coalitionradio.us. This is signing off for another evening. Our videos with Paul Roselli, our LPT TV performances are up already. Take a gander. And we appreciate you taking the time to listen tonight. Thank you so much.